typically honest and hard-working young Australian, a country boy who came to Sydney in the 1990s to play footy. He went on to become a highly respected cop. Life was good. But then, 6 years ago, out of nowhere, he was accused of horrific historical sex crimes. Ben Smith knew he was innocent, but that wasn't enough to convince investigators. He was presumed evil. There was one person who believed him, though, and thank goodness she did. Ben's wife, Amy, saved her husband from prison by proving what police and prosecutors ignored. Her man was not a monster. Ben Smith first came to Sydney in 1995 as a 16-year-old. A kid from the country, talent scouted to the city with all the hopes and expectations of making it as a rising rugby league star. Never did he imagine, decades on, his reputation, career, and financial future would be destroyed by false allegations arising from those halcyon teenage years.
I didn't do anything wrong, yet my life got turned upside down. I don't think it's anything that we'll get over anytime soon, nor do I think that we'll ever get over it. There's just so many layers to the impact that it's had on our life.
The allegations against Ben Smith were shocking. Accused of years of sexual assault against a minor.
Outside of murder, I can't think of the worst type of allegations that you could have made against you.
Even worse, none of it was true. But as you'll learn tonight, police, convinced they had their man, failed to do the most basic investigation. How often do you think, if your evidence wasn't heard, what might have happened to him?
Oh, I couldn't even imagine. I think Ben would be probably sitting in a jail cell now for a very long time for something he didn't do.
And how severe the injury was.
But perhaps most outrageous, even with proof Ben had been falsely accused, no one would listen. So getting these records proved that you weren't in the house at the time.
I wasn't there.
Yeah. And you can't discredit medical records. It's, that stays on file for life.
After retiring injured from football, at 22, Ben Smith became a proud man of the law, a New South Wales police officer, and then a Crime Commission investigator.
It was always something that was, drilled into you. That decision that you make to grab someone and tell them they're under arrest is that sits on you. You've got to make sure that that decision is the right decision.
So you were trained to understand that that decision has huge consequences?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Ben loved his job, but he loved his partner Amy even more.
Like the heavens have opened.
They married in late 2009 and started raising a rowdy family of boys. Then, 6 years ago, out of the blue, Ben was accused of the unthinkable. Historical and heinous sexual assault against a child under 16. Abuse that allegedly went on for 5 years. The fight of Ben's life started on the 20th of December 2016, when he was called into an emergency meeting by his boss at the Australian Criminal Intelligence Commission.
I walk in and he's pacing in the office and he's white as a ghost. And I said, "You all right?" He's gone, "No." He said, "There's a whole room full of cops here to lock you up." And I've gone, "Mate, are you shitting me?" And he's gone, "No, I'm deadly serious." He said, "I'd never joke about something like this." So they explained to me why they were there.
What did they say?
Yeah, Ben, there's been an allegation made of sexual assault against you. Look, at this stage, I have to tell you that you are under arrest for these alleged offences, being sexual assaults and indecent assaults on. Do you understand that?
Yes.
What are you doing at this point?
Your heart's pumping out of your chest. yeah, I really didn't know what to do.
Would you like to hear the allegations in more detail at this stage?
No, no. And then, it's down into the back of a car, and next thing I'm at Surrey Hills cells, sitting in a dock.
So last you know, he's racing off to a meeting at work.
So this is tough for me. It was sorry, give me one second.
Of course.
I thought they were phoning me to tell me he'd been in a serious car accident, if not killed. That was the immediate feeling that radiated over me. And they said that they had him in custody. That moment just is imprinted on me significantly.
Ben was arrested because 3 months earlier, a woman who we can't identify for legal reasons walked into this police station and accused Ben of despicable sexual assaults. She claims she was just 12 when Ben first abused her. In all, she alleges 11 assaults over 5 years, from 1996 to 2001. But as shocking and strange as the allegations were to Ben, the woman making them was no stranger to him.
I moved to Sydney as a 16-year-old to play rugby league. Because of my age, I was billeted out to a family. That's how I know her.
At the time of the complaint, Ben hadn't seen the woman for 15 years. Ben had met her through the family that took him in. Along with other billets, Ben lived at the house on and off over 5 years. So specifically, how would you describe the relationship with the complainant during those years that you were there?
Just like brother, sister. I was just another member of the house. That's all it ever was.
Any idea of what sparked these allegations? Why?
Like, I think we go completely nuts trying to think about why someone would walk into a police station and make a complaint such as this.
The woman accused Ben of acts of indecency and having non-consensual sexual intercourse with her when she was 14. He was also accused of grooming her, leading to further non-consensual sex once she turned 16. Did you do any grooming?
No.
Did you sexually abuse her?
No.
Did you have sex with her?
No.
Consensual or non-consensual?
No.
Nothing of a sexual nature happened? No suggestion of it happened?
Absolutely not.
No promise?
No, God no.
Did anything happen between you and her that could have been misconstrued in some way?
No.
You're very clear about that?
Yeah, very clear. Very, very clear.
But the complainant was also very clear with her allegations, naming when and where the alleged abuse happened in the house. When you look back at the charges, they're very specific, aren't they? They're very detailed.
Yeah.
What was your reaction when you read those, read the detail of them?
That was hard to look at.
And why is it still hard to talk about?
It's probably the worst thing possible. Looking at that and looking at the type of person I am, that's just, it was hard to see that even on a piece of paper with my name at the top of it.
Amy, was there ever a time that you doubted Ben?
No, there were times I asked him questions like, were you ever in some sort of a relationship? To which he said no. So I asked him certain questions, definitely, but did I ever doubt that? No, never.
With her trust never in doubt, Amy launched a remarkable and devoted hunt for the truth. Her forensic detective work key to saving her husband. Gathering evidence police bewilderingly turned a blind eye to.
What they've said happened, couldn't have happened because he wasn't there. That's kind of how we broke it all apart.
As a police officer, Ben Smith has spent many hours at Sydney's central lockup processing alleged criminals under arrest. But in 2016, the last time he was here, the tables had turned. Ben was the one in custody, a man accused of terrible historical sexual assaults supposedly committed from when he was 16. For a police officer to be put in a lockup,
Yeah.
what was that like for you?
Oh, it's horrific. Horrific. You know, especially I had no idea what was going on.
Initially, Ben was denied bail and locked up for 27 hours in a cell on his own to be protected from other prisoners.
The experience will be something that will be there forever.
His arrest followed allegations made by a woman he hadn't seen in 15 years. He knew her from the time he'd been billeted to a family home in 1996, when he moved from the country to play league in the city as a 16-year-old. All these years later, she claimed to police Ben repeatedly sexually assaulted her in that home when she was underage. At that point in time, did you have a sense that the police believed that you had done this?
I hadn't even thought that far ahead yet. I was at that stage, I'm sitting in a dock. It was just a case of, man, this is ridiculous, and we'll be able to sort this out.
As you'd imagine, the sexual assault allegations turned Ben's world upside down. Ultimately, he faced 2 trials, with the first resulting in a hung jury. In the second, Ben was acquitted, with all 12 jurors finding him not guilty on all charges. Technically, Ben has cleared his name, but now the fight is for police accountability. Why weren't the most basic checks done? Why was a critical witness excluded? How did this ever get to trial?
We need to seek the truth, and we need to thoroughly investigate it. But the only way to find the truth is a thorough investigation. And if you don't do a thorough investigation, mistakes can happen.
So would you say this was thoroughly investigated?
No.
Former detective Gary Jubelin says in this case, when it mattered most, police failed to follow up important leads, accepting the allegations without question.
In this particular regards, there are investigative opportunities that were missed, and that might have changed the direction of the investigation. Police need to understand this is a responsibility they got. People's lives are affected.
Amy Smith stepped into the void, taking on the detective work the police wouldn't, in a bid to prove her husband's innocence. By tracking the paper trail of Ben's life, Amy quickly discovered there was another side to this sordid story.
Absolutely. This was my kind of domain. I spent so much time pulling together information, like actual physical evidence, and it discredited a humongous part of that timeline where he was being said to have been in one place and charged, and he wasn't there.
So it really was a case of proving innocence.
Yes, I mean, you're told you don't have to prove your innocence. It's the prosecution's job to prove guilt, but 100% to be able to provide all of this factual, actual hard evidence, for me was empowering.
Amy trawled through and cross-referenced everything she could to test the allegations. The most basic investigations police simply didn't do. And it paid off. Amongst numerous inconsistencies, her most valuable discovery was compelling evidence disproving allegations of assault that were all said to have occurred in the billet house in 1999. Ben was accused of indecent assault on 3 occasions sometime between January and December that year. But for that entire year, Ben lived elsewhere. Not once during that time did he step foot in the billet house, as was confirmed to police by the complainant's very own brother.
I've now got it in evidence here. I can show. I can show now.
So what was your evidence? What did it show?
Obviously, I wasn't there during those periods. It was at that point I pretty much dismantled probably 70% of the fact sheet.
So now you're starting to pull the whole picture together and go, okay, that didn't happen. What they've said happened, couldn't have happened because he wasn't there. So we'll put them in the untruthful pile. And, and that's kind of how we broke it all apart.
Without doubt, in historical sex assault cases, time and date details can be fuzzy. But there was one significant date that was immovable and you'd imagine unforgettable: the complainant's 16th birthday. She claims Ben promised her a special present before forcing her to have sex at her family home in Sydney. Medical records show, at the time and for months after, Ben was living on the New South Wales North Coast, getting treatment after breaking his leg.
And at that particular point in time, I was in Nambucca Heads with a cast halfway up my leg, and I was nowhere near Sydney. Nowhere near it.
Did the complainant accept that?
No. No. Not at all. So challenging to think that this wasn't presented by police. And at some point, someone needed to conduct the investigation that Amy did to show the whole picture.
It's Investigation 101. If you've got reports of a crime and the person has been nominated, you check to see if that person was in the vicinity at the time. Now, that's basic rule of thumb when you're looking at an investigation.
And when you discover that they weren't, what do you do then?
Well, you'd start to question the reliability of the person making the allegations. But
Both Gary Jubelin and the Smiths believe genuine victims should always seek justice. They welcome the Me Too movement for making that easier, but believe it may also be the reason why police so blindly pursued Ben. The fear is not doing so might invite criticism.
The pendulum has swung, and we were abhorrent. And when I say we, I'm not talking police, I'm saying society. And let's not dissuade people from reporting these crimes, but as police, we've got to make sure that we investigate them thoroughly. We can't lose sight of the fact that these allegations are very serious. There is opportunities to corroborate or disprove certain facts, and they weren't done.
Do you believe that complainants of sexual abuse need to be believed, need to be thoroughly investigated and supported?
Yeah, people need to be able to make a complaint.
Of course.
That's not what this is about at all. If something happens, they need to be able to go and see police and be able to get the matter investigated to totality.
We don't want to come across as people that are anti people making complaints. There are victims out there, and they should not be afraid to make their complaints. They shouldn't. But when you have people that don't do their job properly, that's a hard pill to swallow.
But perhaps the most shocking police failure was to ignore this man.
I was the star witness. I knew the truth.
Aaron Taggart is proud to tell you he calls it as he sees it, that he's straight up and down, as forthright as you'll find.
One of us walked out of that conversation honourably, and one of us didn't.
So perhaps he was the perfect person to unwittingly play such a pivotal role in the alleged rape case brought against Ben Smith. When you first heard these allegations, what was your reaction?
I was shocked. Ben never did anything immoral in front of me towards anybody. He was very down the line.
Back in 2001, Aaron lived in the same billet house as Ben.
Ben was just like part of the family. He was a big brother to them, nothing more.
Did you see anything physical that might have been misunderstood?
Never. Never at all.
But despite Aaron's positive character reference of Ben, he was in fact meant to be the complainant's smoking gun. She told police Aaron saw Ben sexually assault her. He was her one and only eyewitness. Despite his importance to the case, it took the investigating detective, Alfio Lombardo, 7 months after Ben was arrested to interview Aaron. What did he say?
He told me that Ben had digitally penetrated a young girl under a blanket and that I was a witness to it. And at no time did I witness that whatsoever.
Did you tell the detective that?
I told the detective that numerous times.
And what did the detective say to you in response to you denying that anything inappropriate had happened?
He asked me, was I prepared to give a statement at the time, to which I said, well, yes. He said that he would be in further contact with me once he'd gone back, typed everything up, and for me to sign the statement.
When did you see him next?
I never saw him again.
Aaron Taggart is astonished that Detective Lombardo did not return to take his statement because what he had to say cleared Ben of any wrongdoing.
Like, that wasn't someone that I pulled out of the hat. Like, that's someone provided by the accuser. And then miraculously that person's name was removed from the brief and no statement was provided. You know, and I don't understand how that happens.
Is it fair to say that the statement wasn't provided, that the follow-up wasn't done with Aaron Taggart because his evidence didn't go the way the police wanted the investigation to go?
You could certainly come to that conclusion or put that up as a possible hypothesis on why it wasn't presented. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good that here is a witness that doesn't help the prosecution case. It was spoken to and no statement was taken from him.
There's a lot about this case that worries former Detective Gary Jublin. For not only did Detective Lombardo fail to take Aaron's statement, he told the court Aaron had refused to give one. And whether that was an honest mistake or whatever the reason, the consequences could have been devastating. When you heard that he'd said that you'd refused to give a statement, what was your reaction to that?
Oh, I was in shock because it was a blatant lie. That's all it was. It was a lie, a flat-out lie.
It's a strange set of circumstances, isn't it, where you're nominated as the complainant's witness, but you end up being a witness for the defence.
Absolutely.
For Ben.
Yep.
How critical do you think your evidence was in his acquittal?
Oh, absolutely critical. I believe it was the pivoting point. I was the star witness because I knew the truth.
His actions could have impacted a jury making a decision. Like, if we didn't have that witness, if we didn't get him, that could have impacted a jury making the wrong decision and wrongfully convicting somebody. And that is the worst thing.
For 5 agonising weeks, starting in July 2019, Ben's freedom was in the hands of a jury.
At the end of every day was a relief.
Why?
Just to go home, see the kids. And equally as tough was leaving home every day and saying goodbye to your kids, not knowing what the end of the day may bring.
On August 2nd, 2019, Ben was unanimously judged to be not guilty of the allegations, but the incalculable damage had been done. Ultimately, you're acquitted, so do you come out here feeling like winners?
It doesn't matter how hard you fight, You know, even though we won a battle here, you don't ever win the war, and that's the challenging part of it. The scars of that battle will just be forever there.
And the fight was not over. Ben and Amy lodged a complaint against detectives Alfio Lombardo and Nicholas Campbell, claiming they failed to investigate the case ethically or thoroughly. That's a pretty serious claim to make, isn't it?
Well, it is, but it's, you know, like, here I am sitting here, like, I didn't do anything wrong. Yet, my life got turned upside down. It should be police's job to provide all evidence, not just what they handpick. And for me, that's, you know, one of the most important parts of this, is that there was evidence there to support me that wasn't provided by police.
Sent to the very police station that had led the investigation into the false sex assault case against Ben. In effect, the police were investigating themselves. Perhaps unsurprisingly, they found no wrongdoing.
It doesn't give me a great deal of confidence. It concerns me because I think people come to the table with biases when they're investigating their own.
As a former police officer, Ben says he wasn't expecting special treatment. Like everyone, he simply wanted to be treated fairly.
Do your job. Do it properly. Do it professionally. Be thorough. And, you know, if that's the case, then provide all the evidence. It's not hard.
And that was your expectation from within?
Absolutely.
The force.
Absolutely. You know, like, do the right thing and there's no issue.
Ben Smith believes he was the victim of blinkered and biased policing, and the cost has been huge. He's lost his career, his home, and $500,000 in legal fees. But the greatest agony is knowing how easily thorough policing could have prevented the damage, as Amy so skillfully exposed.
And that's embarrassing that I could do a better job than them. I was able to provide so much evidence that supported the fact that he wasn't there for majority. And I wondered what actual qualifications they have, to put it bluntly.
She's a handy person to have on your team.
You're always going to do this one, don't you? Yeah. No, she's my everything. It was like being in front of a train, you know, and you just go, no, it's coming, but I can't stop it. And you just live day for day until you get through it. And in this case, yeah, we're still going.
Hello, I'm Tara